Good day to you all. Happy Labor Day in the USA. I'm recording this on September the 4th, which is Labor Day, which happens to probably be my favorite US holiday, as I am a big supporter of labor and unions. I was a Bernie Sanders delegate in 2016. I went to Philly, and that was my first federal election. And he's also my favorite Virgo, and his birthday's on September the 8th. So I'm going to say happy birthday, Bernie Sanders, in this. And if you're not a Bernie Sanders fan, that's okay. I am. But I am recording this on Labor Day, and it really kind of is relevant because I'm going to talk to you about the goddess, or about the dwarf planet Eris. Eris, the goddess of discord. Eris, who was not invited to the wedding of the gods and goddesses in ancient Greece because she was thought too ugly and too unpleasant to be invited to a beautiful wedding of the elites, and she felt left out, so she went along to the wedding with an apple saying "to the fairest" and threw in the apple of discord, ultimately causing everybody to fight amongst themselves, leading to the Trojan War and the fall of Troy. Just a small goddess. But also she was talked of as raging on the battlefields with her brother Eris. She's not recounted as actually killing somebody, but she raged on the battlefields, bathed in the blood. She raged at both sides. She was just, in my opinion, she caused chaos that revealed the artifice, the unfairness, the inequities of society, and how we all fight each other, or we're all like smart and smoothed over and elite and moneyed and not inviting the ugly and the poor. That's been my opinion of Eris, and that's how I've worked with her. I think she fights for the outsider, but she doesn't always do it in a very graceful way. So that's where she gets her hateful reputation, because she is angry at being left out, and she is angry at how humans just kill each other. So she isn't really... I can't remember the quote. There was a quote in one of the stories about Eris that basically said something about bringing the weight on the battlefield on both sides equally. That was from Homer's Iliad. And that's Eris. But she's also got this reputation for, it's like a small seed that ripples out, causing chaos. That seems to connect it with Eris. It's kind of one thing that builds into something bigger, but she isn't the bigger thing. She is just the thrower of the apple. And really, if you think about that thrower of the apple, it was said to be to the most beautiful or to the fairest. I don't read Greek, so I can't really comment, but I've often thought, what if it was about unfairness as well as beauty, or as well as the fact of thinking you're only acceptable if you look a certain way, all that kind of energy she's got as well, about that being considered not fit for human consumption, if you like, or not fit for social consumption, social mores. And this is very relevant for where Eris is now, because, well, you'll see. I'm just going to go through some astrology, and then we are going to just talk about what it means. So here we are. I'm actually starting the chart in 2020, but actually before I do want to mention that Eris's cycle means that she was last here at the turn of the 16th century, going from 1400s to 1500s. And she was last in Aries. And Aries is the pioneer, it's discovery, it's new worlds, it's new beginnings. But what happened at the end of the 1400s and the beginning of the 1500s? Columbus went to the new world, where millions of people actually already lived. and it caused chaos for the new world. And Eris is where she was then again. So thanks to Michael Luton, he said that the USA is having this Eris return, which is kind of true. Well, it is true, because Eris is where she was when Columbus's voyages came to the US. He had multiple voyages. He didn't really discover it, but that's a very Aries word, you know, discovery. And we had the doctrine of discovery, where if I discovered it, I could keep it and have it, and it's mine, with Aries being kind of very much a toddler. Well, now Eris has gone a full cycle around the zodiac, because she moves very slowly and is back at Aries, back at that point in Aries. But she's been in Aries since the 1920s. And that's when we had the flappers and women's rights movement started, and so on and so forth. And people started standing up for individual rights. So that's been going on since the 20s. And then we hit 2020, which is where I'm going to start this story. So let me share the screen. And while I do, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Give me a thumbs up. I'm also going to leave a link to my Substack blog below, where I write my daily updates, energy updates, if you want to subscribe to those as well. Substack has an app, so you don't have to always have emails, but it's up to you. You can change your settings. Eris in 2020 was at 23 degrees of Aries. Now then, 23 is supposed to be Eris's number, according to the Discordians who worship Eris. They wrote the Principia Discordia, which is quite fun to read. It was kind of a religion, or is kind of a religion, but you know, it's a number of chaos magic as well. And the Discordians say that they support chaos magic. They think, but we're also birthed from chaos, right? You know, the universe was said to be chaos, and then all kind of settles into this amazing pattern and cycles that we have. But anyway, back at January 2020, as I said, she was at 23 degrees in an exact square to Pluto. Now, if you haven't been following astrology for quite some time, just a few days before this, on January the 12th, 2020, we had a conjunction of Saturn and Pluto, and Eris was conjunct the two. At the same time, the Sun and Mercury was also there at that time. Let's get to January the 12th, actually. Show you quickly, and then I'll just go. So we had Ceres, the Sun, Ceres, Pluto, Saturn, and Mercury, and Chariklo actually were all there. And I think most of us will remember what happened, or what really came out into the world in January 2020. It was COVID. And no matter what you think of COVID, no matter you think of where it came from or whatever, it has caused discord and chaos. And there's all other things I could say about that, but I don't want to make this about COVID. So that was January the 12th. And here was Eris over here, really in a square to this. In fact, look at that, Mercury and Eris. Mercury, the messenger of the gods, right? Bringing in a message at that time. Okay, what came into the world? And remember, I said that Eris, you know, does one little thing, throws in that apple, causes discord that reveals all kinds of stuff. And not just COVID, it's, you know, the results of that have been wild. But anyway, so that was the first square. Then we had a second square in June 2020. Then we had a third square, and Pluto is death and transformation, remember, in December of 2020. Then we had a fourth square in August 2021. And then we had a fifth square in October of 2021. So we had 5 exact squares of Pluto and Eris. And those 2 years of the pandemic and all the things that went with it have caused absolute chaos since that point, right? So that's where we're starting. So now I want to come to today, and we're just going to look at a couple of things. Well, earlier this morning, okay, the story of Eris discovery. Eris was discovered in 2005, first named Xena after warrior princess, then was named Eris in 2006 as the Astronomical Union created a new classification of astronomical bodies, because there were all these new trans-Neptunian objects being discovered. There's now hundreds of them. But on Eris's discovery, they all met, and that's when they reclassified Pluto from planet to dwarf planet, and they reclassified Ceres from asteroid to dwarf planet. Incidentally, she had been called a planet briefly when she was discovered, then asteroid, and now she's a dwarf planet. And today, as I record this, September the 4th, Ceres, who was reclassified, is on the south node, and I do want to draw some lines, and opposing Eris and the north node, who are approaching an exact conjunction that's coming in November. But not only that, really, they're in square to Pluto. So Eris and Pluto are still in orb of their square. Pluto is finishing his journey in Capricorn. He will not move in fully till the end of 2024, but this really is a square. This is also within orb of a conjunction to Haumea, the goddess of fertility, the Hawaiian goddess of fertility, who is pure creation, mother of all the Hawaiian deities, Pele included. But she was this pure energy of birthing and creation and regeneration. She could give birth from any part of her body, and then she would age and get old and then regenerate young again and give more birth and keep creating, which is what we do and Earth does, you know, as human race and animals, and we keep cycles of creation and new things coming. This is really birthing a new world, right, in Aries. But this time, Eris is in Aries, where she was at the turn of that 16th century, but she's conjunct the North Node, and this conjunction is applying and going to be exact pretty soon. All right, so this is huge. We've also got these ongoing quincunxes to Virgo, and Virgo is where we're finding more meaning, more humility, more usefulness in the world. But let's talk about this Libra-Aries axis for a bit. I talked about discovery. I talked about new things. Well, Libra is about keeping the status quo and about social niceties as well, because it's Venus home. And you know, if you think about Libra, it often is plays nice, keeps peace for the sake of things, smooths things over, also likes things to look pleasant, likes things to look good. Exclusion, Eris. But the South Node is in Libra, saying we can't carry on that way. We cannot leave people out anymore because they don't fit the social mores and rules. And it's also about justice, Libra, and Eris, and Aries is about standing up for yourself. And this is all squaring Capricorn, which is the structures and rules of society that we live under. Currently patriarchal, but Capricorn is the structures of society and the man-made laws. So they can be changed. It doesn't always have to be patriarchy. It just has been for a long time. But we know that Pluto, since 2008, has been moving through Capricorn and exposing a lot of corruption. in global, in many countries. This is not just one country. This is big. All right, so that's where we're starting today. This is going to be a very chaotic, discordant period. Ceres is there saying we're not feeding ourselves, we're not nourishing ourselves, we're not nurturing ourselves, we're not in alignment with the cycles. We're not nourishing our relationships, we're not nourishing our connection with each other, and we're not nourishing justice and the scales of justice in Libra. And Eris is over here in Aries saying, it's time to throw the apple in and shake up this way of life. So big start, right? So this is going to continue for a while. So I want to show you now a period we've got at the end. Well, it's at the very beginning of October, actually. And October is also eclipse month, which is also usually a discordant time. So we get to October. October the 2nd, Venus has been retrograde, went direct on September the 3rd. I'm recording this on September the 4th. Venus is moving now back through the degrees she was retrograde at, where she's been learning to tap into her real heart's desire, been learning to lead with love, learning to follow her bliss, learning to shine, learning to play bigger in the world, to play her part. And I've got a couple of stories about that I will tell you in a little bit. But this point, Venus trines Eris. And at this point, Eris and the North Node are only 4 degrees apart. 4 minutes, sorry, 4 minutes. They actually move a little bit further apart before the exact conjunction because of the eclipses, but they're really close by now. So things are getting really discordant. But not only that, Mars, Aries home sign, Mars is his home sign. Mars is the ruler of Aries. Sorry about that. Ugh. It's just, oh, wow, my goodness. Incidentally, the moon was also conjunct Eris and the North Node when Ceres was here. But by now, we can see that Ceres has moved on. We can see that Haumea has actually moved into Scorpio and is done in Libra. But this is still a lot of fire and air, still a lot of discord. Mars in Libra, he's in Libra as I record this on September the 4th, on the South Node, is saying cut it out. Be more assertive. Take a stand. Stand up and lead from the heart. Juno is over here in Leo and has been tracking with Venus since she stationed direct on September the 3rd, saying it's time to stand up for women, for children, for all those marginalized people, probably for LGBTQ too. She probably would have stood up for them. Really, Juno was the queen of the gods who really stood up for marginalized and abused people. Also, by the way, I've started with Ceres on the South Node. Ceres was also goddess of the plebeians in the Roman pantheon, and that was the common people. Can you see where this is going? As I record this on Labor Day, the workers, the common people, the people who are not part of this big wealth inequality, wealth gap that we've got globally. You can see where this is going, right? But anyway, so that's going to be a big period. Mars will actually conjunct the South Node. I think it's on the 4th or the 5th. It doesn't matter. It's just that first week. And then we've got another quincunx here. Mercury has traveled back to 25 degrees Virgo after his retrograde in Virgo, and his quincunx, this North Node Eris as well. It's time to take a stand and play big in the world, but it's going to feel chaotic and it's going to take some courage which Venus has also been working on in Leo. It's going to take heart. It's going to take some strength to really stand up and do your part in some way, you know. But I do have stories, as I said. So that's October the 2nd. Then we will actually have eclipses, and I want to show you the eclipse on October the 14th. So on October the 14th, we have a new moon annular eclipse, solar annular eclipse, and that's the Ring of Fire eclipse. It's where the moon doesn't quite fully cover the face of the sun because they're a bit too far apart from our perspective. But the moon does form a perfect disk over the sun, but there's a ring of fire around the outside. And they're very powerful eclipses. And this eclipse is conjunct the South Node and opposing Eris and the North Node. All right. This is, again, a huge eclipse. Now, by that point, Venus has moved into Virgo. And so Juno is still kind of connected to this, but we've still got this square to Pluto. You can see, you can see it just. Pluto is still forming this T-square to the nodes. We've had in the summer of 2023 in July, just as Venus stationed retrograde, Pluto squared the nodes exactly. But they're in orb. You know, if it was Richard Tarnas who wrote Cosmos and Psyche, he gives it a 10-degree orb for these big energy shifting transits and aspects. So anyway, that's a big energy here. And as well as we have the eclipse, I just want to check here. Saturn stations direct on November the 4th, but he's at his station degree, 0 Pisces, but that's beside the point, really. But I do want to point out a couple of other things while we're here, because this is all part of it, really. Neptune and Uranus have really been in a sextile as Neptune stationed retrograde at 23 degrees, and they're making a finger of fate or yod at this point. That Libra, that scales of justice, that thing about social values and niceties and so on, and tastes. We are being encouraged to have a big new start, new change, and take a stand in a very big way. So then we do have one more eclipse, and I will just speed on now too. So then we do have a full moon eclipse on October the 28th. And by then, you can see that these two have actually moved nearly 20 minutes apart, but that's still very close together. And right after the full moon eclipse at the end of October, Pallas Athena comes up to the South Node with her steely grey eyes, the wise owl, the creative intelligence asteroid, the problem solver, the justice warrior. She's on that South Node, and Eris is still there, causing chaos, saying things have got to change. I've got to shake these tables, got to pull down these picket fences. We have got to take a stand for the little man, for the outsiders, and but also stand up for yourself. Big stand up for yourself energy. By this point, Pluto has stationed direct, incidentally. So now I just want to, sorry, I had to go back to today because I want to bring you to the point where they actually meet. So Eris conjunct the North Node will then happen on November the 27th at 24 degrees, 20 minutes of Aries. And oh, looky, look who is on the South Node by the time this aspect is conjunct. Venus, who's just been through this amazing retrograde journey in Leo that I've just thoroughly loved doing my class. People have just like found their courage, found their strength, found their heart. They've you know, encouraged to like shine their light out in the world, all that kind of thing, to really be bigger in the world, take up more space and not play small anymore. Venus is right on the south node as Eris and the north node meet. But talking of other aspects, we also have quincunx to now Black Moon Lilith in Virgo, saying release that shame about being humble and ordinary. We've also got, remember we started with a trine from Venus. Well, not started, but there was a trine from Venus to the North Node. Mercury is now all the way over in Sagittarius on a fiery trine to this North Node Eris conjunction, almost exact on that day as they finally meet. The messenger of the gods, bringing this real kind of message between the gods and humans. This is just really quite astounding kind of energy, right? So I think that's all. I just want to assure you, though, I want to clear this a little bit. And I do want to tell you that, you know, these two are going to move apart very quickly. Eris and the North Node, but we're still going to get the fallout for a little while because Eris is still in orb of this square to Pluto, but Haumea has moved into Scorpio, so these are no longer in opposition by sign. Sedna is about to move into Taurus over the next few months. Pluto is going to move into Aquarius. Things are going to shift and things are going to start to heal. I really think so. I've thought for a long time that we're at this kind of peak, sorting things out and justice coming to light in Libra, globally, everywhere. You know, people are done with just being passive, which Libra can be very passive, of smoothing things over, of playing nice. It's time to take a stand up for yourself, live by your values. So I want to stop sharing, and I do want to talk about a couple of people I know. And I'm not going to name names, of course, but just examples. You know, I'm quite a political person. I started at the beginning by saying, you know, where I was in 2016 in Philly, being a national delegate for Bernie Sanders. But I have some friends that I met back then. One of them, she was very much a status quo, working for the party kind of gal, but she got disillusioned and took a complete break for a long time. But now she's running for local council. She's starting where she's at. She's taking a stand, decided to begin locally, and that's where seeds are planted, right? These little apples of discord. Take a stand, run for school board, something like that. Now, you don't have to be political. You're taking a stand, might take a different path, but this is the world I'm in to a degree. And then also, we have, there's a person I met who was also a burner, and he burned out, ha, 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 ha. And he also took a long, long break. Well, he kind of announced this morning on Labor Day that he's kind of feels like it's coming back, like he's ready to get more involved again, that he's ready to, you know, take a stand, start speaking out, start perhaps getting involved more locally or doing something at least. But yours could involve, I don't know, something to do with some organization that supports marginalized people. It could involve blogging. It could involve just speaking out, you know, all that kind of thing. So I'm very inspired by these people They are my witnesses. And the other things that have been coming through as this really develops, it's kind of building on the Venus retrograde, because Venus did trine Eris twice before. It's 3 trines to Eris, once just as she was stationing retrograde, then when she was retrograde, and then the one we've looked at coming up. And the women rising up, or the more divine feminine energy, I should say. The Barbie movie, beating box offices. It's the best grossing movie of the year so far, directed by the wonderful Greta Gerwig, female director. Very much, very feminist, very stand up for yourself, but stand up for what you want and your values. It was kind of like, Then the other story is Taylor Swift. It's just, I've become a Swiftie. I was barely aware of her before. I thought she was cool. I know she wrote her own songs and had been writing songs since 11 and signed her first recording deal at 15. And she had started off as country and then gone to other genres and so on. Well, my goodness, her Eras tour has just broken records. She's just out of the box. She's giving all this money to charity. Her fans are all inspired by her. I've started listening to some of her music and the lyrics are really good. There's courses. I don't care whether you like her or not. You've got to admit, this is just a phenomenon. But, there's courses being created based on her lyrics and based on other things. She's the CEO of her business. Her family is with her, but I get the idea. I watched Miss Americana, that she is running the show. And now she's producing this Eras movie, the movie of her tour, that's going to be in movies. And she has cut the studios out. She's done a deal directly with AMC to get this movie distributed in the theaters. And the studios are ballistic. But they wanted to put it out maybe 2025. And she's like, no, this is the movie of my tour. I want it during the tour. And she picked October the 13th, which is Friday the 13th, which is a Venus day. 13 is the number of the goddess, but it's also a date of the cornerstone of the White House. Whether she knew that or not, I do not know, but that was to do with the Knights Templar, who were said to be the protectors of the Holy Grail. Now, that could be a coincidence or it could not. I know a man who's read that as her being just a corporate, another corporate product, another thing like that. Well, she's the one who took control of her own music and has re-recorded her albums because she couldn't get the rights to her own music. So she just re-recorded them all. She is just like taking it all on. Yeah, it's just a quite astounding phenomenon. Whether you like everything she's done or not, I don't know. She's also taken a stand against, in her home state, against the Republican who was running, Marsha Blackburn, because Marsha Blackburn is, anti-LGBTQ, etc. Marsha Blackburn won, but Taylor got involved in politics in that way of speaking out and saying, go and register to vote, go and vote, and speaking out again about her political beliefs. She's taking a stand and she's inspiring all these other women to do so. It's phenomenal, but also to do it in a very aligned, beautiful, feminine way. Okay. Other ones are there's Beyonce, her Renaissance tours, her rebirth. So a lot of this Eris energy is emerging from the Venus retrograde, thanks to those trines. But then we finish in November with Venus on the South Node. This is going to be a powerful time. I think we've got the women justices as well. Of course, there is Jack Smith in the US, but we've also got Fonnie Willis in Georgia, and we've got the female judge on the January 6th case. We've also got female judge Cannon, who is in the Florida case, who we're not sure about yet, but we'll see. I also saw a report, and it's actually by my favorite tarot reader on YouTube, Revealing Light Tarot, and she said something about the Supreme Court. I can't remember what case it was in, but she was getting an idea that Amy Barrett might at one point with some case surprise everybody and vote against the GOP kind of line. Well, we'll see. I actually, when she was first put on the Supreme Court, I said that very thing. Looking at her chart, I can't remember what it was I saw, but I said, she might end up surprising us. She hasn't yet, but she might yet. But anyway, I just want to talk quickly about the symbols, because I think this is going to be an amazing table shaking time. And to bring it back to the Eris return, if you like, and just the energy of that discovery and new and wide-eyed kind of saying, hey, we've got this whole new world. Maybe we're just going to produce a whole new world. No world will ever be perfect, but maybe we're at the start of something really new, really different. Instead of thinking it's going to be awful, why not think it could be really good? Anyway, the Chandra symbol for that Eris North Node conjunction is a great dragon asleep in a cave. In the illusion of randomness, powerful and hidden orders lurk, like the dragon sleeping in the cave. We enter into what immediately is in that now, as if it were a cave in which we shall discover and awaken the great celestial dragon who is our self. Wow. I'm not going to read the other symbol, I don't think. Or am I? Well, maybe. The Sabian symbol. The Sabian symbol is a double promise, envisioning what we hope to experience. Okay, and that's really about revelation, vast possibilities, living differently, head in the clouds and feet on the earth, and really going, yes, we can take a stand, we can go for our dreams, we can create this new earth, if you like, literally, to go back to whatever his name was who wrote that book, The New Earth. My memory's gone. I'm rambling now. I hope you're enjoying this. I think it's a very exciting time, but it is going to be discordant and chaotic. And there is that energy of, it's your perspective, Eris being feeling left out and feeling ugly. We could see that some people might take that a very different way than I do. But I do ultimately think this is an opportunity to really grab the reins, speak out, take a stand, shine from the heart, and play big and have courage and strength. Much love. Don't forget to subscribe.